What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Ramble Cast. This is going to be a Ramble Cast on something that's pretty important in 40k lore, particularly for the Imperium, and that is the Golden Throne. So, if you're new to 40k, or even if you are somebody who's been around 40k for a bit, but you don't play an Imperial Force, even if you do, you haven't really read deep into any of the lore for Golden Throne stuff, you have some exposure to the Golden Throne from the main rulebook lore section, which will make mention of it in the Imperium section of it. The Golden Throne is the seat of power for the Emperor, or symbolically it is where the Emperor is interred upon, and it's basically a cybernetic life support device for the Emperor's psychic presence and soul. And from it, the Astronomicon beacon is lit for navigators traversing the warp, and from it also you have the Emperor kind of protecting humanity, particularly on Terra, from chaos corruption, supposedly. Now, with that said, particularly he combats those within the Immaterium who would seek to breach the psychic wards around the Imperial Palace. So that's kind of what he does, you could say, but he being the Emperor, in terms of being on the Golden Throne. So, with that said, that's kind of what we know about the Golden Throne from the main rulebook for 40k, and also that we know that its systems are starting to fail irreparably here and there. Like certain systems are basically Golden Throne is deteriorating, and certain systems have gone offline and can't be brought back online by the Mechanicum. They're unable to repair it. If this continues on, then the Emperor will die 100%, which could spell the doom of humanity, or it could save humanity. It's one of those 50-50 things that's ambiguously put into the fluff on purpose for speculation such as this. So what is the Golden Throne's deal, really, and what would happen if the Golden Throne truly does fail? So for this, we got to go back in time, back during the early days of the Unification era, when the Emperor first discovers a device that would become the Golden Throne. So this device is discovered basically underneath the desert sands of the continent of Asia in some vault, alongside other Dark Age technology stuff that we know nothing about. And this device is discovered by the Emperor, and not only does he restore this device, he later constructs it into the Golden Throne. And this is a powerful psychic amplifier. Also, apparently, it serves as a portal into the webway based on Terra. And this is the important part, because psychic amplification is great, but the Emperor's already of immense psychic capability, so to further amplify that is just always good. But on top of that, it would allow entry via a portal, you could say, into the Eldar webway, or into the webway if we just want to put the Eldar moniker on it. So the webway, to kind of butcher its explanation a little bit, think of it like a subway system in the warp. It's a safe way to travel quickly from point A to point B through the warp. Now, this is something of vast importance to the Emperor. So important that the Imperial Webway project is of highest priority in terms of secrecy, that only he, his Custodes companions, those who live, work, and die on the complex that would become the Golden Throne know about. Not even Malcador knows about the Imperial Webway project truly. So this is what becomes the Golden Throne. This device has the Golden Throne built around it. So the Golden Throne will amplify the user's psychic capabilities and allow entry to the webway. And this is converted into a massive doorway. 2 doors, each well big enough to allow Warhound Titan to walk through, is the entryway into the webway for the Imperium, and thus an artificial Imperial built webway section is built to link it into the webway proper. And this is psychically shielded with delicate yet capable of shielding and psyker nullification and yada 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 stuff to keep the warp out of it. This is not made of the same warp resistant material that the webway itself is. So you gotta improvise. So that is the Golden Throne's initial purpose, was to be an entryway into the webway system. Now, it requires a powerful psyker to even make use of it. So the Emperor, of course, can make use of it. Malcolm the Sigilate could make use of it too, and he did, and he died, but he died because of problems, not because of how dangerous it is to use, because in its normal state, it wouldn't be dangerous to use, you could say, like that to him. Magnus the Red could also make use of it if he was around to do so. And it's heavily implied in storytelling from the Black Library and other fluff that Magnus was intended as the user of the Golden Throne initially, to be the one to basically be the gateway or the gatekeeper for the webway portal for the Imperium, and perhaps his legion as kind of the safeguarders of it, or the safeguardians of it, and what have you. Now, I have to imagine that a particularly powerful Astarte Psyker could also make use of it, so I'm thinking like Ahriman might also be able to make use of the Golden Throne in theory at this time, too. You just have to be somebody of capable psychic capability. So that's how the Golden Throne started. And the reason for this is the Emperor sees the webway as the next step for humanity to be unified and to safeguard against chaos, because there's no need to interact with chaos at all in the webway. When you warp travel with a ship, you are literally passing through the warp itself, which is dangerous, even with the Gellar fields and a navigator, and it being a stable warp route, it's still dangerous. Anything to keep chaos away from humanity is what the Emperor is trying to do, thus the creation of the Imperium's Webway project. So that is part of his plan to safeguard against chaos. I'm not going to go into the other part of his plan, which involves genetic science and all that. That'll be for another time. But even the other part relies on the Imperial Webway project being a success. So Magnus screws everything up because he is tricked by Tzeentch to send a psychic warning to the Emperor about Horus's betrayal, and in doing so, he overloads the psychic shielding on the Imperial section of the Webway, thus breaching it and allowing warp entities to pour through it, causing massive red alert situations. And only in hindsight, upon psychically standing before the Emperor to warn him, does Magnus see the folly of what he's done. So the damage is done, and demons start pouring into the Imperial Webway to attack humanity directly. Sisters of Silence are there to stop their way. Custodes are there to stop their way. Some other forces and workers and stuff are trying to be evacuated out of the process, and the Emperor is magnifying his psychic abilities to further shield his forces to protect them as best he can from harm against the demon. This is not good. So, this ultimately results in the failure of the Imperial Webway project, because they're forced to back out, because a war of attrition against warp entities pouring forth from the warp is not one you can win. So, especially when you're basically quasi in the warp in a webway tunnel. So they have to pull out of the Imperial Webway section and seal it, and now the Emperor has to focus solely, or most of his attention, on keeping the doorway sealed and keeping the demons at bay, thus locking him in place on the Golden Throne, unable to move around and do anything, and ensuring the defeat of the Imperial Webway project. Now, the damage done to the Golden Throne itself was repaired to the Golden Throne before the heresy hits Terra in earnest, but there was no time to try and rebuild or try and take the Imperial Webway back and rebuild it. Just that the Golden Throne's functionality was restored, it still required the Emperor to sit upon it and use it as an amplifier to send his psychic presence into that sector to leave it demon-free. Thus, the Horus Heresy happens. We have the Emperor fighting Horus, with Malcador sacrificing himself on the Golden Throne to keep everything safe. And that's why he died. It was because of the immense strain that the warp entities were putting on the Golden Throne systems and how much he had to basically sacrifice himself psychically to do so, to keep them at bay. But we have the heresy play out. We have Horus getting destroyed by the Emperor, utterly obliterated, but the Emperor being mortally wounded in the process. And this is where we see the conversion of the Golden Throne from Imperial Webway to life support cybernetic system and Astronomicon beacon. And in this conversion, sacrifices of psychers are required to fuel the Golden Throne. I guess the psychic might of the Emperor and his soul is so powerful and so vast that you need an actual psychic fuel source to sustain the life support systems because of how powerful the Emperor is. So that's my explanation anyway. But what you have is the start of the daily sacrifices of psychers to the Golden Throne to keep it operational. This does two things. It empowers the Astronomicon beacon, making it safer for warp travel for navigators, and in some sectors of space it makes warp travel capable at all, or otherwise it would be impossible. And it keeps the Emperor safeguarding the palace and the Imperial Palace from the Immaterium who would seek to breach it and make a demonic incursion happen from the Golden Throne. It keeps that from happening. So that's kind of the evolution of what would become the Golden Throne, and then what it was and what it became to be in the 41st millennium. It started off as just a psychic amplification device. There we go. It started as a psychic amplification device that would give you access to the webway based on Terra, and it became the Golden Throne over two massive doorways to quite literally be the entryway into the webway. And then it became a life support system that projects the Astronomicon beacon. So, before discussing what would happen if it truly does fail, because systems are starting to fail on it, we have to take a quick look and make a quick mention to a little thing called a Talisman of Seven Hammers. The Primarch Vulcan, underneath the Emperor's guidance, installed this talisman, which is basically a dead man switch, meaning when something happens, typically, if something happens, then this happens in its place. So this device, acting like a dead man switch, would activate should the Golden Throne fail. And what it does is this little teeny weeny thing of destroying Terra. Basically, the Emperor has this talisman in place that should the Golden Throne fail, it would destroy not just the Imperial Palace, but all of Terra. Doing this would deny the forces of chaos from corrupting the throne world and therefore the Imperium from the inside out. So, understandable why, but you have this little issue of destroying the seat of power of the Imperium and therefore basically destroying the Imperium. Humanity would still exist, there would still be plenty of worlds for humanity, but it would truly fracture beyond the point of repair, you could say, at least for a long time coming, if that were to happen. So, assuming that doesn't actually happen and the Golden Throne fails, what would happen if that was the case? Well, there's things we know would happen for sure, and then there's speculation. What we know for sure is the Astronomicon beacon would cease to function. With that said, we would have kind of a dark age be set upon humanity proper, and fracturing of the Imperium happening because it's impossible to get to certain sectors of space without the Astronomicon beacon, especially with the Great Rift in between, bisecting the Imperium and all that. You have that happening, then you would have no Astronomicon beacon. When the beacon has flickered in the past, it caused havoc, so to have it go away completely would just absolutely wreak havoc on ships. So, with that said, there's no Imperial Webway to counteract this, because that's originally the Imperial Webway was to counteract the need for naval travel being the primary source of doing things. So you don't have that, because that got screwed up. The Golden Throne doesn't really do that anymore. And now the Golden Throne failed, and there's no Astronomicon beacon. No lighthouse of the Emperor's light. So that's no bueno, you could say. So yeah, you would have the Imperium fracture a bit from that for sure. On top of that, it's safe to assume the seals around the Golden Throne's doorway for the failed Webway project would burst forth with a demonic tide, of which the Custodes' companions would immediately jump on, drive back, stem the tide, get reinforcements, get Sister Silence down there, and most likely call on the Grey Knights to do their thing against demons, and they would probably be able to seal it at great cost. I'm guessing. Pure speculation. Now, on top of that, you have the potential for the whole Talisman of the Seven Hammers to make Terra go kaboom, which would be a big problem. So that's all that would happen that we know for sure, you could say, with some speculation, sure, on what would happen if the Golden Throne fails, truly. The other thing is, the Emperor would die. We know that. What that means, however, is purely up for speculation and debate. Built in to the fluff is the 50-50 chance of it being humanity's damnation or salvation. It's thought if the Emperor dies, humanity dies with him, because no longer is there any type of psychic safeguarding for humanity against the Immaterium, and they could really run rampant more so than they are, because the Emperor's warding is gone. It's also thought that if the Emperor's body dies and the Emperor's soul is released from that body, he will be able to reincarnate and lead humanity again, physically, properly again. And it will become the salvation of humanity. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to happen instantaneously after he dies, but the thought process is humanity would survive and the Emperor would reappear to guide them once more. In fact, there's a whole radical sect of the Inquisition that believes in this so much they're actively trying to destroy the Golden Throne or kill the Emperor, and the Custodes hack them down right quick. So every time they try it. So there's that. That's the speculation part. We just don't know. Given the godlike stature of the Emperor, the fact that he needs a physical body is really purely speculation. And that if the physical body dies, it could free the Emperor's soul to truly exist either in the warp or as the whole illuminated sensei thing or what have you, and perhaps even just truly combat chaos. So there's a lot of potential to the whole tinfoil hat theory of letting the Emperor's soul separate from his body, let the body die. He could very well reincarnate to protect humanity. He could very well be, even despite him not wanting to be referred to as such, he could very well be the god of humanity, if you will. You have the chaos gods, you have the Eldar gods, you have Gork and Mork, and then you have the Emperor, right? There's always that possibility in 40k. Again, pure speculation. So the last thing I want to touch upon, because I find it really interesting, is Grey Knight stuff, and specifically a little old thing called the Terminus Decree. The Terminus Decree is interesting because it is something that the Grey Knights have possession of that maybe the Custodes don't even realize. Because there's rumor that locked away in the Chamber of Purity in the Grey Knights Fortress Monastery is the tomb of Malcador the Sigilate himself. And in that tomb rests a simple wooden box. With some embellishment, of course, but there is writing upon this box. And the instructions are known as the Terminus Decree. This is an interesting artifact because it goes unrecorded in all libraries of the Imperium, for it's been kept secret from all but the Supreme Grand Masters of the Grey Knights chapter. And indeed, only a Supreme Grand Master of the Grey Knights knows how to open the box, so apparently there's some special way to open it. Given the current situation with Drago, you have a little issue here with the Terminus Decree, but that could easily be rectified quick enough. But if they wanted to make use of the Terminus Decree. So this box will only be opened when all hope for humanity seems lost. And within this Terminus Decree is the ultimate sanction of the Grey Knights. Basically, you could say, not so much their ultimate purpose, but you could say kind of their ultimate mission is instructions are within this box. And it is a secret that is, again, doing the whole duality 50-50 thing. that is so vast and important that it could bring the Imperium to its knees or save it in its darkest hour. So again, that whole duality thing, very similar to the Emperor. And there's a reason for that, or the Emperor's death. And the reason for that is because we have a clue to the contents that lie in the box because of the box's golden seal. And this seal has only one place that it also appears as an exact match. Its twin only appears in one place, and that's the Emperor's golden throne, this particular seal. So this seal links it to the golden throne. Whatever the nature of the document is, it's got to be tied to that. Now, I don't think the Terminus Decree is Malcador saying, siege the golden throne and kill it. What I do think, it is Malcador telling, or the Emperor or whomever telling, it's either the Emperor or Malcador. I do believe this decree is, hey, go to Terra, speak with the shield, with the Custodes' Captain General, and do what must be done as decreed in this box. I think that's what is going to be the case, because the Grey Knights, as powerful as they are and as advanced in tech that they have, so where am I getting at? The Grey Knights, for as powerful as they are, I kind of lost my train of thought in talking about the Terminus Decree there. For as powerful as the Grey Knights are, and technologically advanced as their gear is, the Custodes are just as technologically advanced. They have Oromite armor, which is more advanced than the Astartes power armor stuff, even the Aegis armor of the Grey Knights. And while the Grey Knights have psychic capability on their side for their entire chapter, the Custodes have Custodes physiology and training and numbers in the Palace of Terror. Remember, the Custodes number is around 10,000 strong, where the Grey Knights are probably around 1,000 strong at best. So what you have is a numerical advantage on the side of the Custodes, which is a rarity, in the Palace of Terra. And the fact that the Grey Knights will only be allowed so far before the Custodes halt their progress, before bloodshed would happen. And I don't think it would go well for the Grey Knights, to be honest. So I don't think the Terminus Decree is to attack, but more so to present these important documents to the Captain General of the Custodes, and from there, together, do what must be done. Which could very well be turning off the Golden Throne or something. I have no idea. But it's an interesting little bit of fluff that's been in place for a couple of editions now. And it's something that, and now I'll finish up this Ramble Cast about the Golden Throne with this. The Terminus Decree is quasi-game ending, as is the Golden Throne's fluff being continued to the point of the Emperor's death. At that point, you basically have 40k as a game ending or going down a rebirth path. What I mean is this. The Emperor is of such vast importance and power and capability that to kill him outright basically kills humanity. Basically wipes out around half of the codices, right? Mars might still be able to survive, and you have the Martian stuff. Some Space Marine chapters may be able to exist on the brink. But by and large, the Imperium would be gone. To reincarnate the Emperor basically gives the Imperium this OP beatstick that could just destroy anything in its wake. Just about, theoretically, of course. So I truly doubt we'll see anything happen with the Terminus Decree or the Golden Throne itself failing fully to the point of the Emperor's death for a while. And unless they want to Age of Sigmar it, try and reinvent the 40k universe and kind of wipe the slate clean but rebuild in a way and push the timeline forward, then we might see it. But that would be a very risky proposition because there's so much intrigue, mystique, and hype surrounding the whole issue of Chaos v Emperor and the Golden Throne that to do anything with it, especially anything that would even approach the concept of giving it rules, would have a whole fan base crying havoc and being really upset. And I would definitely be wary of that myself. So fun to speculate on, although I doubt we'll get any real solid conclusionary stuff with the Golden Throne. Anyways, thanks very much for sticking through it. I rambled on long enough. It was a very long ramble, sure. For Ramble Cast, it wasn't that long, though. And a lot was covered. A very quick rundown is this. The Golden Throne started off life as a psychic amplification device that allowed access to the Elder Webway on Terra. The Emperor took this, built the Golden Throne around it to try and have the Imperial Webway project be a thing to help protect humanity against chaos and have much better unification of humanity's worlds via the Webway for near instantaneous communication and response time and movement throughout the galaxy. Horus Heresy happened. Magnus's warning disrupted the Webway project. The Horus Heresy put a squash in any type of redo for this project. And then the Emperor was mortally wounded in his fight against Horus, where he obliterates Horus. Thus, the Golden Throne's converted to be his life support station to keep his soul bound to the Golden Throne and his body, very much turning the Emperor into a lich, basically, including psyker sacrifices of their soul to the Golden Throne. So, as a result, we have the amount of sacrifices needed per day actually has grown over time, either signifying problems with the Golden Throne, increase in the Emperor's power, or increase in the dangers that he's fighting against and therefore needing more fuel, or a combination of the three. And then we have signs that the Golden Throne is deteriorating to the point that the Emperor will die in the future if something is not done. And then a speculation about what that would do outside of the Astronomicon going away and the Webway doors opening up with chaos bursting forth from it because they're no longer held back by the psychic wards of the Emperor. So share your thoughts, of course. I know there's a lot to digest. I just want to kind of put this out there just as a real basic, what's the deal with the Golden Throne and what would happen if it truly does fail. Thanks very much for sticking through it. I know I've repeated myself multiple times and for people to comment, you talk too much, but hey, that's what I do here. So thanks again. Any question, comments, requests, or anything, leave them in the comment section. And until next time, take it easy.